What's going on, everyone? This is Dr. Mephisto. Welcome to the ride. The guest I'm having today is one of the most talented person I've met in this damn city. He's an actor, singer, comedian, writer, you name it. I just can't wait to have him on the show, and I hope you like him too. Let's go. Orpheus.
Wagwan, Dr. Mephisto. So we do it.
Alright. Shit, I forgot my glasses. Alright, well, just introduce yourself for people who don't know you.
Yo, original goat man, Trini Troubadour, John Orpheus in the building. Ow. Repping House Orpheus crew.
Put your belt.
Yo.
That's gonna bother you.
Repping no seat belt on the road. Yo, big up Sarah Jane Riegler, big up House Orpheus, big up Chaenel Mattise, big up the Afro House, big up Speak Your Truth. There it is. All of these things. Repping the city on a Sunday morning. What's going on?
I know, it's not too bad today. 11 degrees. We've seen worse in the past 2 weeks.
No snow.
So what's going on? What's going on these days with you? Well, I kind of like want people to get a little introduction of who you are, what you do.
Okay. Well,
come from? Well, you just said Trinidad.
All the things. Well, I mean, generally, I would say that me personally, my origins are in South America, in Trinidad. I came to Canada when I was 11. Lived all over Canada. Just basically played a lot of music, lots of bands, lots of rock bands, soul bands, funk bands, hip hop, all of these things. And been in the city for about 7-8 years in Toronto, and we just been making waves, you know. What we do is Afrocentric community. House Orpheus is kind of a community that reps basically anything to do with the African diaspora, all the regions, from West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, all through the Caribbean, you know, America, Canada, wherever the diaspora is, we rep that. I'm a singer, I'm an artist, I'm a producer, I'm a writer of books, and my whole thing comes from that, but larger than me is the community, and that's what we rep. We do events. Afro House is our dance event. As you know, you've played it yourself. It's kind of just a communal dance down thing. John Orpheus, my music. We have albums, we have mixtapes, we have videos, we have websites, all of these things. And we do our thing. And we also have 2 events. One's called House Orpheus Presents for live concerts, and one's called Speak Your Truth for up and coming talent to come and get a platform to just, you know, do their thing a little bit. So there's a lot. So House Orpheus, is it still, so you separate basically the slam poetry and all that stuff in its own event, right? Yeah. Speak Your Truth is kind of like if you do poetry, you know, if you're a rapper, if you're a comic, you could come through, do your thing, and that's what that's about. It's about giving lots of people an opportunity to do their thing.
I see.
We usually have featured artists every time to kind of anchor it, and that's the one mode of House Orpheus.
And then House Orpheus is now more focused on music and little concerts. So you still featuring people, or you're just also opening to like, how does it work? How do you select the artist, or are they contacting you? How does it work?
So Speak Your Truth is an open mic. So
Okay.
usually it kicks off about 7 at Poetry Jazz Cafe.
Yeah.
Last Thursday of every month, and people come through and sign up. So usually by 6:30, 6:45, the sign up sheet is full.
Mm-hmm.
There are typically 10 slots, and then there's a feature performer that does about a 20-minute set. We choose that feature performer.
Okay.
Usually we choose the feature performer from people that have come to the open mic consistently and consistently been dope. We usually sort of let them graduate to being a feature and just have a little bigger platform to express themselves.
I see.
But everyone else is first come, first serve. We accept everything. We do have some rules: no hatefulness, no snitching, no fat phobia, no transphobia. No hatefulness is the general umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, speak your truth.
Yeah. It would be hard for a French humorist to do anything because we have so much hate in our humor, man. We just love like those little racist jokes and all that kind of stuff.
But
it's just to bring people together. It's important to make fun of like racism and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I feel it's healthy.
It's a hard thing in a community, right? Because it's like with comedy, you can't have stand-up comedy without pushing buttons and pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really hard to. That's the one place where it's hard to regulate, because at some point, if you're doing stand-up comedy right, like, I don't know, can you be funny and not offend someone?
Yeah.
Can you be funny and not offend someone? Open question. Please email houseorpheus@gmail.com if you have an answer.
Well, I mean, yeah, like humor is I don't know, man. It's important to. It's also reflecting reality, especially for stand-up, right? And there is stuff that are offending in reality, so like you just put a taboo on it, or.
Well, me personally, having done stand-up comedy myself, we think a lot about these things, and there are rules that they told us, like, look, you can do a dick joke, but don't do dick jokes. But still, it's kind of like, here's how I see it. I see it like this. I'm like, what's the difference between Eminem and Iggy Azalea?
Okay.
I think it's because Eminem is so obviously good and so obviously a master of the craft that he gets a pass that she doesn't.
Yeah.
And so when I think about comedy, I think ultimately, like, I saw Dave Chappelle's new special on Netflix, and he's talking about rape continuously throughout the show. Bill Cosby. He's talking about O.J. Simpson, who murdered his wife allegedly. So violence against women. He's talking about things that in 2018, you're not supposed to be able to talk about. Yet everyone's laughing, and some people had issue with it, but in the main, everyone supported it. And I was kind of like, well, what allows Dave Chappelle to do that, and not just your regular comic on a stage at,
It's the delivery, right?
It's the quality of what he's doing.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, to be funny, you can't be seen to be what they call punching down. So picking on people who are less fortunate, or people who are already down, it just makes you look like a bully. But your intent is important. Like, people can tell when you intend to be mean, and people can tell when you intend to be, open-hearted, and you're just commentating. And also, with comedy, I think is important, you need to make fun of yourself too. Like, you can't, like, if you come up and you're just making fun of everything else that affects everyone else, and you don't point it at yourself, I think it sets a stage where it's just like, okay, well, what are you doing? But ultimately, I think the only rule is be funny. And contained in be funny means respect people, have good intentions, not be mean-spirited, because people don't laugh if they feel those things. So that's kind of what I feel, because that's kind of what it looks like. I don't actually know, and I think about this all the time, because every time a comic comes on Speak Your Truth, they say something that makes me go, ooh. Or we have Bougie B. Bougie come through, larger black woman, funny as hell, so-called horniest woman in Canada. And Bougie was like, she made a series of jokes about having weird looking dicks.
Okay.
And you would think, okay, like, that's a black woman talking, and so that's okay for her to make that joke. But then someone came up to me after, which always happens, no matter who the comic is. I'm just talking about Bougie because she's the last one. Someone always comes to me and says, should they be allowed to do that? And then we also had, and because someone said to me, well, what if you actually had some kind of issue with your penis? And this woman stood up there for 3 minutes, which is eternity in stand-up comedy, and talked about weird penises, and I felt like, I would probably have a problem with that. So I don't know.
It's crazy how people are, sensitive. What happened to the hot seat in comedy? Is it still a thing? Like, if people are so sensitive like this?
You mean the hot seat? What do you mean?
Well, I've been to, like stand-up comedy shows where you had a hot seat and the two-person or one person sitting in it that's just gonna take the heat. And I went straight to that seat, man.
You could take the heat?
Yeah, man. Like, all I would try to do...
Well, you're French, man. You love cooking. You just love the heat.
I don't know, man. Like, they were strange going for the French aspect.
Yeah.
But...
See, that's an example of going for the cliche.
Yeah, it was just going for cliche, not even anything really relevant.
Yeah,
because all those cliches are not real anymore.
Yeah, or there's a lot more to it,
Yeah, there's a lot more.
Like, there's a lot more to it. It's like, okay, the French like to cook. Well, every culture likes to cook, It's not a... There's a point where it becomes a caricature and it doesn't actually tell you anything. But... I don't know. All of that is fair play when you're a comedian. And again, I think it's the quality of the comedian.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really good at what you do, then you can say things no matter... I think this about writing. A good writer can write about anything.
Yeah.
They could write about grass growing. I remember very famously, I was reading Carl Ove Nosgard last year. His amazing memoir called My Struggle. And he wrote for 2 pages about making tea.
Mm.
And I loved it. I was like, the most boring thing, nothing's happening. I've made tea a million times, but the way he describes the heat on the pot on his hands, the way the leaves fall down to the bottom, I was in. And I feel like it's the same thing with Dave Chappelle telling jokes about rape, which should be a taboo subject, but the way he does it is so insightful that it sort of finds the darker, more it finds the humorous side, which allows us to explore something that otherwise we couldn't explore. And I think what you're getting at earlier is that when we can laugh about something, then we can actually open a space of healing and safety around it, and it actually helps things. As opposed to, if we can't talk about it, well, there are a lot of people just walking around with feelings and pent-up feelings, and you can't express that shit. But it's not, again, it's like a dick joke. You can't just do it and throw it out, like you say about jokes about French people. You can't just throw it out kind of lazy, kind of just pick on the obvious stuff. You have to actually have some thought and some talent.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes the difference with that. So no, if you come to Speak Your Truth, we will not ban you, but you better be funny.
We have we have a humorist that's really controversial, like a comic. Sorry, it was really controversial in France. That made a hilarious bit about cancer. Man, it's bad. It's so bad, but it talks about it in a, I don't know. The delivery is very smooth.
Yeah.
And it's funny. It's very funny.
I think what people forget, like a lot of, having been a comic, what I understand is your job is to make it seem like you're just up there talking like whatever comes to your head.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, you need to do a lot of work. You need to do a lot of thought. You need to do a lot of preparation. There's an art to it and a craft to it. And I think what you experience when someone tries to make a controversial joke and it falls flat is probably people who haven't done the work.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you've done the work and you've tried it out and you've adjusted and you've tweaked it, it's a fine line to walk.
It must be complicated in Canada to be a comic, because there's a lot of there's not, like, I've heard more from U.S. comic that there's not really like a freedom of speech in Canada.
In Canada, yeah,
it's difficult. Like you can get sued for jokes, and
well,
being punished very
but
badly.
having said that, like, Canada has a long history of producing great comedians. I mean, Russell Peters.
Yeah, but they all went to the U.S. though.
Yeah, well, of course, but that has more to do with the money. It has more to do with making. Yeah, of course you go to the U.S. If you're a musician and you're good in Canada, you go to the U.S. If you're anything and you're good, because it's a bigger market.
It's a bigger market. But I mean, like, I would see. I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. He invited a bunch of stand-up comedians from Canada at some point and talked about how they got fined for jokes. Yeah. Like pretty badly.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that, like, comics I know, and I know a few, aren't really too worried about that. I've heard some of the most horrendous jokes. I don't think any comics I know in Canada are changing their set because they're afraid of being fined. I don't think that's happening. But Canada produces funny people. Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Russell Peters. I mean, those are three of the greatest all time, and they all came from right around here. Like SCTV. If you go to Second City and look on the wall, you see like the history of there's a lot of funny comedy. I think the difference with Canada is it's more British than it is American. Like, we're more on the British side of things, so we have, we're Commonwealth, right? They broke away and we burnt their White House for it. So we have that genteel, that, like, there's a little bit of, I don't know. I think there's a little bit of there's a little bit of schoolboy manners about it, as opposed to the Americans who are just kind of like loudmouth and just say whatever. And Canadians are passive aggressive, man. Like, we are. Like, Canadians will not say what's on their mind, and then they'll go gossip about it. And I once saw a lady, this is my quintessential Canadian psyche insight story. I was sitting at a movie theater, and there was this one woman who was sitting there, and she was talking loud, and there was a woman behind her who was upset with her talking loud from the beginning of the movie, but instead of saying something to her, she just kept it to herself the entire film, and then went out and then exploded and said, "What the hell is wrong with you? You should have respect." And I was kind of like, you know what? Actually, that's your own fault, because if you talked to them at the beginning of the movie, then you would have actually had a quiet movie. You know what I mean? But that's a classic Canadian thing. I'm not going to tell you what you're doing is upsetting me because I want to be more upset. It's almost like we like being upset. We like being righteously upset about things. And it's like, if you're in America, which I've traveled a lot in America, less so in France, but enough, people just tell you how they feel. People just go, "Hey, you know what? That's not cool." Or, "I don't like that." Or, "Yes, I love that. Keep doing it." And I feel, Canadians sometimes, once we get out of our shells, we're fine, but sometimes that's hard. So But yeah, as far as the comics go, I mean, there are so many great comics. There's so many great comics. But, you know, that's just one part of the House Orpheus thing. But it's important because it hits on an important issue. When you're doing a community like House Orpheus, like Ubuntu, right? You have a lot of different personalities, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different, you know, especially House Orpheus is a really inclusive thing. So we encourage queer people. We encourage people from, you know, immigrant people. We encourage people from all over the world. And as a result of that, you often will have some friction where culturally things don't translate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and sometimes as one of the sort of curators of the community, I have to get involved to sort of help navigate. And it's tricky sometimes. Sometimes there are no right answers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you have any example of situation that was hard to manage like that?
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean, I can't really name names.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that kind of show. But yeah, for sure. Like, we had situations where, like, you know, guy and girl situations where people were saying, hey, I didn't feel respected in this situation, and we had to sort of navigate it, sort of hear both sides and come up with a solution. And it was real hard, and nobody was happy, but nobody ended up happy. But it was kind of like, you know, you have to, I don't think as curators of the community there's no such thing as a unbiased actor. You know, you always have to be trying to help navigate those things, because we're human beings and we're gonna have tough days and bad habits, and you know, it's a teaching thing too, because a lot of the folks are younger than me in the community, so it's about me just sort of being a big brother and going, yo, let me help you with this if I can. You know, not that I know the right answers, but I can at least try.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you have to.
So let me ask you this question, because I don't know if you see it coming, but
I see nothing at all.
No?
No, I'm kidding.
You mentioned recently stopping singing. Let's talk about that.
Where did you hear that? On the internet? Because I just troll people on the internet. I do not. Yeah, man, that's the real thing. I was just like, I got up one morning and there were a lot of things. So the context of this is, first of all, I'm not stopping singing. That's not my thing. It's like, singing is part of me. I am music. I'm always gonna have that coming out of me in one way, shape, or form.
Just a comment, like I know that you're not stopping singing, but
okay,
I just asked the question how people interpreted it.
Yeah, because
online.
even if you saw the post I made, I talked about, yo, I'll always be doing music. I'm just trying to realign how. People didn't see that. The internet, right?
PBR,
Everyone just saw the
PBR.
headline.
People don't read.
Yeah.
People don't read.
They just saw the headline and they were like, oh, you're quitting music. Oh my God. You can't, please. Just last night, a homie popped into me outside Bunda Lounge, and he was like, dog, you can't quit the game, dog. You ain't quitting. Come on. You ain't quitting the game. I'm like, nah, man, I'm here, dog. I'm here. It's actually an odd thing. It's like, I guess what I was trying to say was, I'm going to do less business and more music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know what that means, because you're in the game. You recognize that, you know, for those of you that don't know, if you're an artist and you're actually doing your thing, a lot of times you don't spend that time doing music. You probably spend 10% of your time doing music and 90% doing business. And it's great because, you know, you can get a lot of success from that. Google John Orpheus. Like, there are videos with tens of thousands of plays and interviews and, you know, meetings with legends and concerts and, you know, tours and lots of beautiful things. But unfortunately, the reason I got into the music business is because I love music. And so what I was saying was, I'm stepping back on the business so that I could, I have friends that have open mic nights. I never get to go and just get on open mic and sing.
Yeah.
I love doing that. I never get to do it because I'm always busy. I have friends that are asking me to collab for like 2 years now. And I never get to do that, So even like last night, like being able to go out and rep for my friends' birthday parties and, even build with people like Percy and Essie and Black Stars who are friends, but, we're always working, so we're always seeing each other in passing. And even kicking it with you, like, we talk all the time, but a lot of times it's like we can't really hang, or that thing we want to do we can't do because I'm always doing something and you're busy too. And so I kind of said to myself, look, I need to feed my soul. Music feeds my soul. So unfortunately, people took me saying I'm doing less music business as I'm doing less music, but the truth is I'm doing more music because I have all this space now. And really, we're on tour in the States this summer. We're headlining a couple festivals. I'm writing new songs. Like I'm doing lots and lots of music. So even with the step back, it's not that big of a deal. It's more like going from 90-10 to like 50-50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm rebalancing, and that's, I could care less what the internet says, really, but which is why I'm always trolling, but ultimately, we grown men out here. That's part of maturity. That's part of growing with your craft. That's kind of growing with your business. So that's what's up. That's my answer to the question.
And so, what's going on with the book?
Yo!
Draft is done.
Oh man, can I do my book dance? Yo, Becoming John Orpheus is my memoir. It starts from a youth in Trinidad to my teenage years, where I didn't even know this. I went to 7 high schools in 5 years. 7 high schools in 5 years. So, and then it takes me through just all my art and just growing my family, lots of drama. And here's the thing, a lot of why the music thing is connected to the book, so I just finished the first draft, or second draft actually. I'm about to start the third tomorrow.
So you're rewriting everything, or?
Yeah, you just keep, you just work on it, you change things, you make things bigger, you edit, you cut things, you do what you must. It's part of the process. But I just finished the second draft, and lucky enough, Penguin Random House is like contracted the book, so they're paying me to write my own story, which is excellent. It's good work. I recommend it. But here's the thing, going back through your whole life, every relationship, every family member, every event, every triumph, every loss is really emotionally, it's really difficult emotional work. And when you come out of doing that, you're never going to be the same. Like, imagine if you just went back through your entire life with a fine-tooth comb, like just every single thing, feeling it all over again, having conversations all over again. And I interviewed 70 people from my past, so over 200 hours of sort of reliving all of these things. And some of it's great and fun, and some of it's not so fun. And you hear something beautiful and it makes you want to weep. You hear something terrible and it makes you want to weep. But that processing is like therapy. It's like something we don't get to do. And so having done that and gotten to this point, that's why I can now reassess where I'm at with music. That's why I can now reassess where I'm at with different places in my life. But I love the process. It'll be done in about 2 months. That'll be the wrap on the drafts. And once that's finished, it'll be about a year before the book comes out. We're gonna do the audiobook. I don't know what the next step is.
Are you gonna do it yourself?
Yeah, of course. I do myself.
Nice.
Because, you know, my mother have a strong Trinidadian accent, and I don't want anybody messing she up. Yeah, I'm going to do it myself. I mean, I'm a theater guy. I'm an actor. I'm a singer. I'm a vocalist. So, you know, paying someone else to do what I wrote is probably not a wise move.
I'm still waiting for my my edition of your book.
Oh, the first one, Molasses. Yep. Oh, snap. Molasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next time I'm in Kitchener, I'm going to grab a whack load because a lot of people are asking me for them, and it's been a minute. I have a novel. It's called Molasses. Look it up. That's all.
Yeah, people are witness now. You need to bring me one.
Oh, right.
I got it on video now.
You got it on video. The commitment.
Yeah.
The timestamp.
I know. So, yeah, like, shit, I had a question. I forgot about the process of writing, but you pretty much covered it.
Yeah. It's fascinating. The process of writing is, I love it. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like, even for people like me, like I studied English literature in university.
Yeah.
I've been reading and writing like stories since I was like 9 years old. But I've published a novel, but I still found this super hard because you have to, the amount of thinking you have to do, the amount of like emotional processing you have to do. And then sometimes, you know, you're just trying to get it out because it's just a mess. And you can't try to be perfect right off the gate. You actually have to go through a process where you write something and you're like, that's disgusting. I don't want to read that. But you know, when you read a book, you don't read their first draft.
Yeah.
You read, you know, Hemingway said he polished The Old Man and the Sea so much that he knew that there was not one wasted word in the entire thing.
Yeah.
He said he edited it 50 times. 50 drafts. Wow. So what happens to a lot of young writers is you write, you want it to come out like Hemingway first time. And it's like, nah, that's not how it works.
You know what? There's people who could use 50 drafts for their posts on Facebook.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Yo, the Facebook thing, the Insta thing, I'm just like, I just think it's funny. I mean, I enjoy it in ways. I find it's beautiful. I'm a communicator, so I love platforms that let you communicate. But come on, man.
But it's funny how now people make you responsible for stuff you wrote in like such a short amount of time, where you have people who would do 50 drafts of their thinking to try to like polish it into what they really think, right?
Right.
And then you get judged and sentenced for something you wrote in like a second before even thinking it.
Well, I think that's just like the comedy thing. You got to be good.
Yeah, but everybody makes mistakes.
I know.
And you punish mistakes, and mistakes are important, right?
That's part of, you hit upon what I think is one of the really important things about social media. Everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes are part of the process. If you don't fail, then you can't succeed. I met a comedian. I was down at Corner Comedy. This dude bombed. He bombed in his set. And then a couple minutes later, I walked out and I saw him and I felt so bad for him. I was like, dude, man, yo, that was rough, man. I know that was hard, man. Don't worry. Next time, keep doing what you're doing. I like that one joke. And he said something crazy to me. He said this. He said, dog, I'm happy. I'm like, you're happy? He said, yeah, I figure to be a bulletproof, perfect comedian where they laughing every time you talk, you gotta bomb at least 200 times. And he said, I just checked one off the list.
Funny.
And I was like, yeah, because you do have to fail a lot. Like, I'm a man who plays guitars. You know this about me. In order to learn how to play guitar, you need to sound terrible for years.
Yeah.
In order to learn how to DJ, you need to like have those moments where the crowd is not feeling you, and you're like, yo, what's going on? And you need to figure it out. You need to be able to fail publicly. But in our world,
it's tough. Yeah.
No one's allowed to fail at all. People are tripping on me because I made a sincere, nuanced post about my relationship with music, people, oh, you quit music. I'm like, whoa, that's not what I said. And that's not even a mistake. That's just the way the medium is. It's hard for people to process nuance. And the problem is this. I see a lot of young artists who come to me and they're like, yo, J.O., you know, I'm a rapper, I'm a singer, I'm a model, help me do my thing. Can you give me some wisdom? And what I see is there are a lot of singers that don't sing. There's a lot of rappers that don't rap. I'm like, you need to spend, if you could spend half the time you spend doing Instagram pictures and posts on your music, you would be way better, you know. But I think the key is what you're talking about. People are afraid to fail, and they're afraid to fail publicly. And the people that are doing interesting things online are people that aren't scared to make a mistake, where everything needs to be flawless and on brand. It's like, if everyone's being flawless and on brand, it's like, that's boring. That's boring. It's like anyone can sit there and polish and polish and polish something. But you know what you lose when you do that? You lose the energy of the inspiration of the moment. And I feel like that is also truth. And if you're just polishing, then that's exhausting. That's exhausting. Why would you do that? It's a waste of your energy. You know, and so, you know, but part of our culture is we don't allow people to make mistakes. We'll go back, like we're going back to people who lived 200 years ago and judging them by today's standards and going, well, by today's standards, you weren't a very good person. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's probably true, but, and there's lessons to be learned from that. I absolutely agree. Like John Wayne said a lot of terrible things about black people and Jews and gay people, and there's an airport named after him to this day in LA. To this day. So probably someone should go back and go, hey, maybe we should celebrate someone else from that period, which is fine. John Wayne had his time. But in our day and age, it's kind of like something you posted 3 years ago on Twitter or whatever for a second. I mean, people might pull that up and go, yo, Mephisto, nah, we ain't fucking with you, delete Mephisto.
Can you imagine if I was thinking of like Highlander and stuff, those guys who have like immortal and the shit they must have said, you know, like 200 years ago, and then you go dig and pull a stupid post from 200 years ago where everybody was racist and it was just like the trend, you know, like it was just
19 slavery 9. In 17 slavery 9, there was a tall Frenchman and he owned many slaves.
No, but I mean, like the thing, you know, like it's funny because look, in my family, like my grandparents, they say some shit sometime, like, really, you just say that? But it's just they came from another time where the common sense was so different.
It was so different. And look at me, I'm a black man, so I don't say that easily. I realized that, you know, a lot of the things I do freely today, I wouldn't be able to do 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. I wouldn't even like exist.
But so, yeah, you can't underestimate ignorance.
You can't.
You know what I mean? Like
ignorance.
Back in because from my country, you know, like I don't know if you know about this, but in France we had a zoo where people from like different ethnicity were exposed. And that's where people had their first contact with, you know, the different kinds. They
straight up had a friggin' a zoo, a brown people zoo. Like straight
from
up.
Everywhere, from
everywhere, from Rwanda. Like, yeah, I remember that.
And that's a time where we didn't have TV or anything. That was their entertainment.
Yeah, that was the, like...
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, people were traveling by boats with the fucking wind. And they were, like, bringing people... And they were paying them, right?
Yeah.
They were paid. But they were paid to, you know, be pictures of, like, savages and stuff like that from there. And
to dress up and play.
That's how people learn about others. So, you kind of, like, nurture this racist culture. by
Yeah.
thinking those people are like that, they're savages or whatever.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
My thing with that is, and here's the thing about looking back on old cultures and judging them with our lens, it's self-righteous. Because it makes us say, look how great we are.
Yeah.
Look how far we've come.
Yeah.
But just yesterday I was listening to Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, who just died, and so they're playing some of his interviews, and he was talking about how he'd never been a rapper that pretended to be something because that's what he wanted, right? And he was talking about how some rappers act like they're a certain thing, but they're not actually that. They're doing it because that's what the white audience wants to see, and that's what sells. And so it's a lot like dressing up like you're in your cultural dress just to entertain white folks. It's the same thing. And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying, is that by looking back and judging others and judging other times, we're acting as if our time is perfect, when a lot of the things that existed in the past still exist today. They just don't look the same, but they're the same thing. And I think by spending all this energy judging the past, all these people are dead.
Yeah.
We know that was broken. It's kind of blinding us to what's broken about what's happening now. And I think it's a lot easier to look back and say, and feel good about ourselves and go, hey, we're not lynching people. But when we look at what we are doing, there's a lot going on that's not okay. But we're spending time thinking about 1875. I'm like, okay, well, I love 1875. I love history. I love reading history to learn so that I can apply it to now.
Yeah.
And I think with that kind of thinking, there's no applying it to now. It's just like, I feel good because we're so much better than these people who didn't know anything about any of the things we care about. I mean, it's kind of a false glory, right?
Yeah, but we're writing the new mistakes nowadays.
Yeah, we are. Exactly. Like when I read history and I hear how messed up it was, I think, oh my God, what are the mistakes we're doing right now that they're going to look back on 200 years from now and go, those fucking savages, right? There's stuff we do every day that they will look back on and go, oh my God.
Really? You don't do anything with your trashes? You just dump it in the water?
You just throw your trash in a big pile? Like, really? You couldn't figure that out? Or surgery. A friend of mine just had, Joyce Wong, what up? Feel better? A friend of mine, Joyce Wong, just had her ankle, just broke her ankle, had to have surgery. And she was like, I thought, I was in this supersonic, like futuristic hospital. I thought they were just going to pull out a light and wave it over my ankle. And she was like, nah, it's brutal. There's bone and sinew, and they crush it and they splint it and they screw it in. It's like, 200 years from now, they might look back and go, oh, those friggin' animals. How did they even live so brutally?
That was the case though. Like I was listening to a podcast about the history of surgery recently.
Yeah.
And this lady was an expert in this. Was explaining all the stuff that happened before the invention of what's it called? Anesthesia.
Yeah.
Can you wrap your mind around this?
Yeah. You just have
Surgery
to bite down
anesthesia.
on a piece of wood.
That's ridiculous.
Drink a bunch of liquor or whatever you can, and just watch them saw your foot off.
And even like before antiseptics.
Yeah.
Like people were just dying from nothing.
Infection,
Nothing.
They're totally fine, but they're infected. They can't clean it. They can't clean the wound. So, I mean, real talk is like...
I was laughing when I was hearing this. People were like, contesting, like denying the fact that you need to clean your hands before surgery.
And the world is flat. Yeah, they think cleaning your hands is going to ruin all the healing bacterias. But here's the thing. I mean, again, taking it back to our time, there's so much we do that is savage. So much we do. The thought that us as a civilization are so much more advanced than other civilizations, it's an illusion. There are definitely things we have that are better, but there are definitely things we do that are not better, that may even be worse than a lot of civilizations.
some of us may be smarter, but
well,
most of us,
let's hope.
most of us aren't.
Yeah, I think as a society as a whole, people think, oh, we have microwaves, we're so enlightened. But it's like, you know, just because we live longer and we have more wealth, generally doesn't mean we're better.
Yeah, I heard a comedian, a French comic, who says that we think we're smart because we have smart things, the object that smart people made for us, and it makes us feel that we're smart.
We're smart.
But the thing is, we don't even know how to make those things.
Yeah. Look, Mom, I'm driving in a computer. I'm a genius.
Yeah, so it enhances our potential and stuff like that. Like, but you sing and you don't know how the mic is working. Like,
yeah,
you don't know
exactly.
how to build a mic.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm assuming maybe you do. I don't know.
No, I can take one apart and assemble it if I have the pieces, but no, like, I'm not an engineer. But that's how it always works. Like, everything we do, like, even in a band, like, I understand how drums work, but I'm not a drummer. Sarah Jane Riegler with her left hand can outdrum me with all my limbs. So that's just how it works. But again, I think it's hubris, right? Hubris is that word for like a kind of fatal flaw where a kind of fatal inflation of our own ego, and that leads to our demise. And I feel like that's that's our hubris. Our hubris is to believe that we're so much better and that we did this all ourselves, and that because society has amazing things happening in it, that somehow that means all of us are enlightened. Or even because you're really good at making a microwave, that means you actually have ethics. Mm-hmm. You know, that means somehow you're enlightened and you're a good person. We do that all the time. I mean, probably our favorite mascot of that is Donald Trump, where it's kind of like Donald Trump is like, and Americans do this all the time. Someone has a lot of money and therefore that means they're a better person, or that somehow makes them greater. And a lot of people say, no, I don't think like that. But as soon as a wealthy person drives down the street in a nice car, or as soon as they're the same people who ask people, well, what do you do for a living? So they could find out how much money you make, so they can decide how to value you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I feel that that's our hubris of our time, is that we think that, like you say, we use things smart people make for us, and so we think it makes us smart. But also, we think because you're good at one thing, you're going to be good at a whole bunch of other things. That's a human bias that we have, right? Where we think, because you know how it is. I know a lot of great musicians. I know a guitar player who can play anybody under the table. But you know what? He's not such a great human being. He's an alcoholic. He's not so enlightened about his life. One doesn't equip to the other, right? Or equate to the other. You know, Kanye West, great at making beats, not so good at making political policy. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't, but still people listen to him as if, hey, you know, Kanye, you made a great tune.
Influencer.
Yeah, you made a great tune with Lil Yachty. So, you know what? Can you tell me what to name my baby? You know, I got this pain in my neck. Can you diagnose it for me? Like, no, it doesn't work like that.
It's that bit of Dave Chappelle, like when 9/11, let me ask Ja Rule what he thinks.
Yeah. Where is Ja? Where is Ja? Right? It's like, because that's the last thing you need, right? I don't need a rapper right now. I might need a priest. I might need I might need a DJ.
You might need your family.
I might need my family. And so, yeah, we are pretty lost when it comes to that. A lot of people are grounded, but a lot of people are just lost on that whole thing.
Let me get back to you on the technology thing. I've heard a theory recently that blew my mind. Like, even if, you know, you can contest, like, you can, you know, criticize it a little, but it was about our consumption of technology is basically nurturing the creation of a new species, which are like the machines. Mm-hmm. And we are, I'll send you the exact quote, but it's about how we are the penis penises of the machine reproductive organ. Like the fact that we consume machines is basically making them make more machines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to improve the technology and all that stuff is basically driven by the fact that we inject so much money in this business.
Yeah.
So we are creating, and like bees basically.
Mm-hmm.
Bees are helping making more flowers.
Yeah.
So we are the bees of the technology species, basically.
Wow. And so is the queen, is to take that metaphor further, is the queen a human or a machine?
AI, I don't know. Let's not go too far on this, but I thought it was an interesting theory.
As a writer, whenever I talk about technology, I think about the fact that most technology showed up in a novel before it showed up in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the chicken and egg, right? Like a lot of technology are created because those nerds that created the technology were amazed by those stories when they were younger.
Yeah, but I don't think it's, well, I don't know if it's chicken and the egg, but I will say that things that we are now experiencing in real life, they showed up in fiction like a whole generation ago. Like, for example, the shape of our phones. If you're old school and you've watched Star Trek,
yeah.
Well, the shape of our phones was determined by Star Trek, by the quarters. I can't remember the quarter communicators that they used to have. Yeah. They were like flip phones.
Yeah.
In the 50s and 60s, they all had flip phones, and they thought, how futuristic. Now we all have flip phones. The Jetsons, cars that drive themselves. Suddenly now we're all testing autonomous cars. So I think that when I think about technology and where it's going, I look to fiction to figure out where it's going to go. Mm-hmm. And if we look to fiction on this whole point about AI and a new species, well, it never ends well for the humans. The humans always, it doesn't happen well. We're talking The Matrix, we're talking Terminator, you know what I mean? So,
because we fuck shit up anyway.
And there are real technologists, like really smart people who people with a lot of sober judgment, like Bill Gates, who have said, hey, we need to actually think about what we're doing with AI, because by the time we figure out we've made a mistake, we might have brought about the end of the human species. And then there are other people who think that basically we're going to have more and more tech inside us, because there's little nanobots now where they can inject you with basically microscopic machines, and they'll work on your body and help heal your body. So what they're saying is people are just going to start getting enhanced features, like suddenly, know what?
The case already.
What if I could just replace your eye with something that could see all spectrums of light? What if I could replace like your air mechanism with something that could hear further or hear better? People are already doing it, but now they're saying we're going to have more technology in us, and it's going to become more seamless and less invasive.
Have you heard of transhumanism?
Transhumanism? No. Tell me about this. That sounds fascinating.
It's just like some sort of branch of kind of philosophy that believes that of human 2.0. And that human become like potential cyborgs and merge with technology. Yeah. There's a lot of it, but the scary thing is that it's a fucked up way to think, but in my opinion. But
but that's real talk though. That's happening, as you say.
But the thing to know is from what I heard, a bunch of chairs at Google, like really important people at Google that are some big heads of transhumanism.
Yeah.
And part of theories of transhumanism is to basically becoming immortal, that kind of stuff. Transferring your mind into machines, that kind of stuff, uploading them to servers.
And if you're looking at fiction, it's like, I've seen tons of movies like that where people evolve so much by taking in some sort of machine component that they They just dissolve. Their consciousness dissolves into the internet or the electronic cyberspace, and they become sort of these higher beings. And I'm like, again, if technology is following fiction, then fiction is painting, that's the picture fiction is painting of where humanity is going. I don't know if I'm going to be around to see all of that. But yeah, by the end of our lifetimes, I think you'll see people that are hybrid.
Yeah.
I think you'll see people that are hybrid. Yeah. And I think there might be some sort of tipping point, some sort of point where machines actually become conscious to the point that they don't need us. And they become intelligent to the point where they don't need us. And when that happens, well, we've all got a problem, don't we?
It depends. There's multiple theories for this. It's a longer conversation.
Yeah, but human beings, I don't know. If history is any indication, human beings, I mean...
Well, that's the problem. Like, machines are better than us in a lot of... They have perfect memories.
Yeah, but do they necessarily have...
They have perfect memories. They communicate with each other perfectly.
Yeah, but it's the finer human qualities like senses of morality, senses of beauty, senses of... the soft elements that bond us together as human beings. That's the stuff that machines don't have. A machine can run faster than you, but can it decide can it make decisions based on morality and ethics? Like, can it be a good person?
Can we?
Can we? We can. We can.
Can we?
We can. We also cannot.
Yeah.
But we have the option. A machine doesn't have the option.
But morality is a really gray area. Like, it depends on the era you live in.
Yeah, morality is just as shifting and changing as we are. But I don't think any of us want to live in a world that doesn't have at least an attempt to be moral. An attempt to do something that's greater than just what's good for me or good for you, but what's good for everyone as a whole.
Yeah.
And then who knows what that might look like in the future.
Yeah.
Listen, word. Man. It's very philosophical. We started out talking about dicks, and we finished off talking about morality and ethics. You've been treated.
You've seen it all.
You've been treated. I haven't sang a song yet because my voice is hoarse, but that's next time. Go to johnorpheus.com if you want some chewing. Right?
Listen, man, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man, for coming.
Always good, my brother. Always good. Thank you for a ride in the computer. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm in a server room.
Yeah, we'll do another one because it was too short, I feel.
You really?
Oh, yeah, it's too
That's
short.
like an hour of me pontificating on everything.
We've done worse before.
Yeah, we have.
All right, let's wrap this up.